I am Rashawn McDonald, the host of Money Making Conversation Masterclass, where we encourage people to stop reading other people's success stories and start planning their own. Join us as we travel across the country, visiting small businesses and interviewing celebrities to see how they're running their companies and nonprofits who are making a difference in their local communities. Now sit back and watch as we unlock the secrets to their success. My guest is a former emergency room nurse and educator. She helps recently graduated nurses and aspiring nurse entrepreneurs land their dream roles and launch six-figure businesses. There are over 100 success stories, with many earning up to $175,000 in starting salaries. Dr. Farah delivers transformational coaching through mindset work, resume strategy, and digital visibility. Please welcome to Money Making Conversation Masterclass, Dr. Farah Laurent. How you doing, Farah?
Hi, I'm fabulous. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm so excited to get into this conversation.
Great. Why did you become a nurse?
Great question. So growing up, I always used to play with my dolls. I would always put Band-Aids, use up all the Band-Aids.
Wow.
And it was funny because my family, my dad's side of the family, would always try to push me into becoming a doctor.
Right.
I knew that I wanted to be a nurse, particularly an emergency nurse. I started watching this show called Trauma Life in the ER, and I absolutely fell in love. I'm like, that's the type of nurse that I want to be, to really help people in their most vulnerable times in emergency situations. So that's why I decided to go into nursing and to really make an impact in the community.
There's a TV version of nursing, then there's reality. When you get there on the job and you see it for real.
Yes.
When you saw it for real, did any of it take you back? Did any of it question you or make you question your decision or career choice?
No, I was right in it. I was like, this is it. This is for me. I love it. Obviously, there was some challenges, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it, especially emergency medicine, because it was so exciting to me to be in a field where you can really make an impact in the community and see people get better really quickly in the ER. You know, sometimes we'd have to send them off to the ICU and you didn't really see the follow-up, but the ones that we took care of, you're literally saving people's lives.
Right.
So that was very impactful for me. Particularly, one big accomplishment was working in Detroit, Michigan, at a level 1 trauma center there, because that was where one of the shows was filmed, Trauma Life in the ER. So it's 360 that I got to actually work there.
Now, let me ask you this. How long did you do that before you started venturing out as an entrepreneur or seeing visions of other opportunities?
Sure. Yeah, so I did ER nurse for about 13 years. I traveled, I did travel nursing. Did it for 13 years. Then I transitioned into education and then some leadership positions. And then I realized really climbing up that leadership ladder, it was real interesting. It seemed like I was getting more micromanaged in the hospital system and in academia, right, in the university college world. The more higher up I got. And I was like, that's interesting. In the ER, we ran the ER, right, as nurses, but it seemed like there was a lot of micromanaging, a lot of microaggressions, and it felt like I couldn't do the impact that I really wanted to make. So then that's when I started thinking, well, you know what? I want to make a difference in a different way. Let me look into entrepreneurship, because I was already doing coaching for these new nurses. And really guiding them. So I said, well, let me just try to turn this into an actual business.
Now, that's interesting. I'm talking to Dr. Farah Laurent. That's Laurent. You know, by Canada, Michigan, New York, you got you have like 5 different accents that you're throwing at me, but I'm grabbing all of them because you're fantastic. When we're talking about careers, and that's what people look at, careers and nursing, and did you have a specific school that you thought was better for you, or you just went to a school that was closer to home?
Yeah, so I did my undergrad at the University of Windsor in Canada. To me, it was, I wanted to just be close to home. And when I thought about financially, I wanted to actually go to Toronto, which is like a big city. But I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to stay home because financially it makes sense. I'll pay less money, stay home, pay off my student loans, and then be able to travel later. So that was my thought process. Because to me, I'm like, it doesn't matter what school you go to. It's all about kind of what you do when you're there, right?
Now, I'm going to tell you this, be honest with you, Farah. When you start talking about nursing, nobody thinks about money. You know,
Right.
when that person comes to the door, try to tell me what's wrong with me or help me out, I don't think about that as a job. I have a sister-in-law who's a very skilled nurse, been doing it for over at least 30 years in her profession. And so with that being said, you start talking about 100,000, 175,000 salaries. Now, that's a salary I never thought in the nursing profession. Are these one-offs? Are these like unique opportunities that you're talking about? When you say 100,000 to 175,000, are they working 120 hours a week? Are these 40-hour week schedules? Talk to me.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Okay, so the reason I decided to start talking more about money in nursing is because, like you said, most people don't talk about that. We're seeing like, oh, it's a noble profession. We're helping people. But nurses have to eat and feed their family too, right?
Right.
So new graduate nurses today in these bigger cities like New York City and California areas, mostly Northern California, they're making baseline at least 100,000 up to 175K as new nurses. So it is possible in these bigger cities to make that much. And really nationally, I think the average is maybe about 70,000, depending, kind of like give and take. So it's a really good profession to get into for job security, and, to be able to be sustained on that salary.
Well, which is really great because I think the level of respect is now being received for nurses because, let's be honest, we have a generation that's getting older, and sometimes you don't know how to separate a caregiver from a nurse. That means respect has to be defined. When you look at a profession that is your life, that you turn into an entrepreneurial opportunity, you see the broad scope of financial worlds that are being available for nurses, especially entry-level nurses. What do you say when I say, Rashawn, that's not a respected position because people don't know what nurses do?
Well, this is why one of my key agenda items is to really be in the media, to be educating the public about the opportunities that nursing does give, the nursing profession. Nursing has really evolved and changed where nurses are working in the government, working in policy, in the communities, so many different aspects that a lot of the public don't realize, right? Nurse anesthesia is another big growing field where they're actually making over 200, 300,000, depending where they work. And another big agenda item for me is to help the public understand that we need more diversity in nursing and more diversity in nursing leadership. Because that's going to also help with a lot of the issues that are happening in healthcare. In terms of like closing the gaps of inequalities.
It always surprises me when I see a male nurse go, because you don't see I saw a male nurse yesterday go, okay, cool. Because you just think that is a female role. And that's very stereotyping. I apologize. But when you talk about racial diversity as well as language in that racial diversity, I think is key because we know that the population of whites reduction and then the minority growth, especially in the Hispanic community, is growing. Is that what you're talking about as far as diversity?
Yeah, I mean, in all aspects, like you said, there are more male nurses entering the profession. So that's one aspect of that diversity. And yeah, just making sure that nursing is representing the communities that they serve, because research shows when nurses basically look like the communities they serve, patients have better outcomes. And just to attract more people into the profession, because obviously they keep talking about the shortage. But, there's a lot of things that we can do to attract more nurses to the profession, because really I think it's one of the best professions because there's so many things that you can do in nursing.
Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Money Making Conversations Masterclass. Welcome back to the Money Making Conversations Masterclass hosted by Rashawn McDonald.
Before we get to entrepreneurship, it's graduating season, nurses out there looking for job opportunities. What advice would you give to freshly graduated nurses out there looking for opportunities to get the job of their dreams?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's what I love to talk about. Number one, I say get clear. Get clarity on what it is that you want. So many nurses feel like they just want to settle for anything. That's the wrong thing to do. Get clear on what it is that you want, what skills, strengths, what population you want to work with, and go after those jobs. So for me, that's what I tell them. If there's a specific specialty that you're interested in, ICU, ER, doesn't even have to be in the hospital. It could be in the community. Just go for that. And then the second thing is to be confident, right? But how do you really instill confidence? Is through preparation. You need to be prepared for these interviews and not just wing it. A lot of nurses think they could just go in and just wing it, right? But you can literally be blowing the opportunity of the real jobs that you want. And then thirdly, I would say really working on their personal brand and their digital presence, because 95% of recruiters will go on LinkedIn and research these candidates. So really having a LinkedIn profile that really speaks to your strengths, having a profile photo, working on that brand. So that's what I would say.
Now, that's key now. You've helped over 100 people. 100,000, we've said that a lot on the show, 175,000. I'm going to keep saying it, because I think if you keep saying something, people eventually will hear it. What is the secret to negotiations, Farah? Because everybody can't, you know, because we're saying these numbers, but that doesn't mean when you walk in there, they offering it.
Right, exactly. So really the secret, I would say, is number one, doing your research and knowing what city you're in, what health system is going to potentially offer you. And then being able to have a baseline salary that you want. And then I typically say, add at least like 20K to it. So it gives you some buffer to really be able to negotiate. And then you need to work on, I always talk about pitching. You know, how do you pitch yourself, articulate your value? Because they'll come to the table with a number, but you need to be prepared to counter back. And really how to do that is through research and being able to articulate your value and express what you're going to bring to this organization, and then be able to just counter back and forth.
In other words, walk in knowing a little history on the company. I always tell people are always going to get sick, people are always going to die. There are going to be jobs for you out there.
Yeah.
And also be willing to move too. I don't want to move. Well, guess what? That 175,000 might be 6 hours away. It might be another state away. So be flexible in your planning for your future. And a lot of people have a closed mind about that. And that's the approach you're trying to. I think when I did my research on you, Farah, your success, when I started talking about, you started up in Windsor, Canada. Then you're in Michigan. Now you're in New York. Now you're on TV with Jennifer Hudson. You're doing it all, girl. That means you're a flexible person with a personality for change, correct?
Yes. I mean, you hit it right on the nail. You said mindset. Literally, I was on a call previous to this speaking to a new graduate nurse about removing herself from a scarcity mindset and moving more into an abundant mindset. Because so many of us get stuck in negativity, and they need to start moving towards learning that, like, say, you know, investing in a nurse career coach, it's an investment. Investing in an outfit to go to your interview, that's an investment and you're going to get it back, right? So positive thinking and positioning yourself to receive, right? More abundance. So I think mindset is huge when it comes to attracting.
Let's talk about this because it just popped in my head. Okay, what does a nurse look like when you're going in for an interview? Because when you go get the job, they got you in this little standard little green outfit, okay? What should one look like when they're interviewing for a job to be a nurse?
Well, I have a whole different take on this. Literally, most nurses will just listen to what everybody else thinks or what they think is professional. And I'm like,
Right.
what does professional really look like? But what's happening is most nurses are going into interviews wearing either a black suit or a gray suit, sounding like everybody else, looking like everybody else. And I'm like, listen, you need to physically stand out. So I'll give you a quick example. I worked with a nurse in California. She wanted to work in labor and delivery. She had a group interview. So I said, listen, you're going to get, she was a redhead. I said, you're going to go and get a green suit.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, really? I said, yes. So she walked into the interview wearing a green suit. And guess what? She was the only one wearing a different color. Everybody else, it was like a sea of black. And there you go, her in green. So of course, she's going to naturally stand out. She's going to look more confident and be more confident in the interview. So I say, bring a little bit of your personality, and you have to show up to impress and make them do a double take so they remember you.
I'm assuming that you do coaching, correct?
Yes, nurse career coaching, yes.
What is that?
So basically, when I was in the emergency room, I constantly was always coaching nurses to how to write a resume, how to do a cover letter, how to, really get the job in an interview. So I was naturally always doing these types of things. And then I said, well, I could turn this into an actual business. So what I do now is I actually coach new graduate nurses on how to land their dream job, literally from being a nursing student after they get out. And some of them are even landing jobs as nursing students, and they don't realize they can start applying before they graduate. So really that's what I do. And I thought it was going to be a lot of technical aspects like resumes, interviews, but I'm actually doing more transformative work in terms of mindset, helping them with confidence, and doing, more of that stuff, helping them with.
Okay, I don't want to. So how can we get in touch with you?
Oh, so they could go on my website, nursefarah.com, to work with me, or on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn,
Farah Laurent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's that name will pop up pretty quick. I know the Farah, Farah, and
Yes.
Laurent with a T. I think they'll find you on LinkedIn
Yeah, they
for
can just
sure.
Google me. I'm all over on Google.
See right there. See, I knew it was gonna pop out. I knew this personality gonna pop. Just Google me. Just Google me. I'm like that.
Google me.
But let's talk about red flags, because I don't want anybody to not do their research when they try to get these jobs. What are some of the red flags that new nurses should look for when choosing their first hospital or healthcare employer?
Oh, yeah, this is great. So I always say, think of yourself as an interviewer as well. You're also interviewing your employer, right? So number one red flag, I would say, is the interview process. How does the interview process look like? If it's a mess, unorganized, and I understand, sometimes things happen, but if it's consistently messy, unorganized, they keep canceling things, that could be foreshadowing of what that organization might look like when you're in it, right? Number two, how do they treat you when you're in the interview? If it's the direct supervisor or manager, how does that relationship look like? Are they welcoming, or are they very interrogative and cold, right? Because to me, if I want to enter a profession and work with a particular group of people, I want to make sure they're welcoming. So I always say to nurses, ask for a tour of where you're going to be working. So you'll get a sense of, I always say, the vibe of the place, right? Because you can't really hide that, right? When you're kind of walking through and taking a tour. Another red flag is if they're trying to give you the job really quickly. But that's really quick.
But that's what you want, though, right, Farah?
You want to start tomorrow. And then high turnover,
Right.
if there's a lot of turnover, even in their leadership as well. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, I'm not to take that. Somebody, you walk in the door, everybody's looking for a job now, Farah. Oh, Dr. Farah. And they
Okay.
go, can you start next week? Is that too quick? What is too quick? Is it next week, 2 weeks from now?
I mean, you kind of have to get a sense of it, you just
Because
kind
if
of.
somebody tell me $100,000, can you start on Monday and it's Friday, I'm gonna go, okay, I'm filling out the paperwork. I'm sorry, I'm filling out the paperwork. God, I'm just telling you, that's a great note because I believe in
Right.
that. But also, you're just telling people that, okay, always pause before you say yes. Go
Yes.
home, think about what is all that salary involved. And I think that's important in the process to make sure you have a clear understanding of your job responsibilities as
Right.
well as your work hours.
Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more Money Making Conversations Masterclass. Welcome back to the Money Making Conversations Masterclass hosted by Rushion McDonald.
I remember when I worked at the post office and when I was in college,
Yeah.
and they used to work from it was 6 to 2:30 a.m., 6 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. What that I didn't realize was that they could call overtime on you. And so, and my classes started at 7 a.m. And so 6 to 2:30 a.m., I go home, grab me a quick nap, boom, I'm there. But then when they did overtime, I was getting off at 6 a.m. So I was working from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I didn't really understand it or grasp that when I was hiring me. I just went, great salary. Hey, 2:30, I'm cool. I'm going to sign up for these 7 a.m. classes. I was staggering into those classes because I was working a 12-hour shift.
Yep.
Because I didn't get the full details. I just accepted the money without clarification or the pitfalls. If I knew that and thought the process out, I probably would have started my class at 11 a.m.
Right.
or
Right.
noon. No matter what, I still would have been able to get rest if I work overtime. Cool, I got a nap window. If I got off at 2:30, I had a bigger sleep window. So it's important that money does come with consequences, correct?
Right, right. And like you mentioned, look at the whole package, right? The compensation, vacation, time off, all that stuff is important. Is it a union hospital, non-union? Is it pension? You got to look at all those benefits.
Cool.
First.
Now, Dr. Farah Laurent, you're an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You get up when you feel like it. You set in your schedule. How does one transition from the life of a nurse, 40-hour overtime, I'm tired, to be you, or be in a position to field an opportunity as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so this is a great question. A lot of nurses, like I said, are going into entrepreneurship for more flexibility and freedom. So there's a couple different aspects. Nurse practitioners are now trying to do maybe a brick and mortar private practice. Some are doing telehealth businesses. And then my favorite is service-based businesses in terms of coaching or consulting. So to me, any nurse who's interested in entrepreneurship, whether you want to do a side hustle or your main hustle, consulting or coaching is an easy way to get into it because you're using your intellectual property, what you already know, to monetize off of that. So that is my biggest recommendation. So I've recently been doing master classes for business master classes in Clearwater Beach. I just moved to Florida recently. And really teaching nurses about the basics of business, and how to go from a nurse to more of a business mindset and helping them with, those concepts. So, yeah.
Cool. You're also the founder of Nurses Making Money Moves. Now, Money Making Conversations Masterclass is my show. Her platform is Nurses Making Money Moves Conference, and the author of a book by the same name. Tell us more about the movement and what inspired it.
Yeah. So actually, I was going to speak at a conference, and I thought, you know what? What's going to help me stand out? And what can I bring to the people at the conference who are aspiring nurse entrepreneurs so that they can benefit from it? So literally, I had a couple weeks. So I created this workbook called Nurses Making Money Moves, a nurse's guide to starting a business. And it literally just takes an idea to registering your business. So I brought this book to the conference, and I started selling it at the conference. I had such a big positive response that literally I said, well, you know what? I'm going to eventually turn this into a conference. So I had 10 weeks and I decided I'm going to throw a conference, and everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, Farah, you need a year to plan. I'm like, I got this.
You the worst. You the worst.
Within 2 weeks, I had the venue booked, all the speakers, and I was new to the Tampa Bay area. I knew no one. I got 70 nurses to come through from 20 different states with 0 sponsors. So if anybody's out there wants to sponsor the next conference, let me know.
Next well-planned conference with a year in advance. That's how you get sponsors, Farah. You can have a window. They usually in the fall. They're out there looking for opportunities. So now you have a conference that you can show your demographics. So it's good that you did kick it off, and you have photos, you have videos, and all that good stuff.
As an ER nurse, we just roll with it. So I made it happen.
And congratulations.
I was pretty proud of myself. So the next one is happening March 6th and 7th, 2026. And the reason I chose March is because I'm, big into women's empowerment and really helping women with their businesses. Because, the majority of nurses are women. So, yeah.
Absolutely. In closing, if anyone's listening, Farah, whether they're a new nurse or a nurse considering a shift into entrepreneurship, what's the one piece of advice you want them to take away from your story?
So the real key things that I want to tell them is if I can do it, you can do it too, right? Number one, it all starts with an idea and the mindset. And the biggest thing is to just take action and actually do it. Just do it. And literally, it takes 3 days or 4 days to register a business. But the biggest thing is really getting out there, being visible, networking, and building your brand. Because once people trust you and you start being visible and building that brand and giving value and being of service to others, all you're doing is solving problems in entrepreneurship, right? And nurses are big problem solvers. So find the problem you want to solve and go for it. But before you do, make sure that people actually need it and want to buy it. And then do your market research and just go for it. And that's really my biggest advice. Yeah.
Well, my friend, she's now in Florida, everybody. She started up in Canada, made her way through Michigan, made her way through New York. Now she's in Canada. Now she's in Florida, down in Tampa, turning it out with her own conference. That will be next year, which is 2026 in March. My friend, you're fantastic. Thank you for educating me. Like I said, I have a sister-in-law who is a very proud member of the nurse profession, but there are so many stereotypes. You've broken down a lot of them, but also letting everybody know there are financial opportunities out there, not only in the nurse profession, but also in entrepreneurship. Thank you for coming on my show, Money Making Conversation Masterclass, Dr. Farah Laurent.
Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thanks for the opportunity.